I'm a very big advocate in rewarding yourself in order not to burn yourself out. But when I say rewarding yourself, I mean rewarding yourself with self-gratifying rewards and not self-destructing rewards, like indulging in your favorite meal and dessert instead of doing drugs. However, in the times of today, a lot of us have a very impulsive and spontaneous attitude towards pleasures and gratifications. There is absolutely no or very little amount of control and resistance when it comes to approaching any form of immediate indulgence. Whether it is junk foods, entertainment, video games, stimulants, or sexual opportunities. Now, as time passes and as we let this attitude run rampant and form the basis of our lives, eventually we will start to feel much less satiated and stimulated from these gratifications than we would have been when we were introduced to them at the start. The moments of pleasure tend to get duller through repetition, as we need more and more of the same or constantly seeking new forms of pleasure in order not to starve or deprive us just by the minimum. Our dependency on these short-term gratifications often turns into full-blown addiction, and thus, we become possessed by the objects we crave as we corrupt ourselves further with higher and higher dosages or threshold of intolerance towards the banality of normal life. Now, we all know why this happens. Commonality. Commonality and familiarity will always eventually breed a dire sense of contempt. The overwhelming sensation of overstimulation and convolutedness will eventually introduce a newer, higher, and much quicker phase of monotonousness and tediousness. Indulging in the same gratification regularly or swiftly introducing and stacking new forms of gratifications on top of one another in rapid fashion will eventually result in the same thing. You'll get accustomed to them much more quickly and become bored with them much more easily, and through that you'll appreciate them much less and enjoy them much less as well. Which is why it is extremely important that we periodically limit or restrict ourselves from these gratifications. Because desire and appreciation grows in both absence and abstinence respectively. When we abstain from indulging in something for a long time, or with someone for that matter, we start to think about them a lot more. We start to look forward to seeing them a lot more, and when we finally meet them again, we actually enjoy and relish our time with them a lot more. We feel a lot more uplifted when we meet them again, and of course, most importantly, we appreciate their existence and company a lot more as we want to take our time with them and spend way more time with them than before. It's a very naturally innate human dynamic. When we see, hear, taste, smell, and touch something or someone too often or too regularly, we start to cherish them less and less as time passes, because they're not as rare, precious, and special as we initially thought they would be, as they can be obtained, kept, controlled, indulged, or afforded so easily. Sounds harsh, but it's undoubtedly true. Unless you're utterly and unhealthily obsessed, if any of you have been in relationships where you both lived together for a long time, you'll know this to be true. Or if you watch the same shit or play the same game every hour of every day, you'll know this to be true as well. Which is why, again, it is very important for you to take your time away from these gratifications and limit yourself from overindulging in them. True pleasure always comes in moderation of relief, because our emotions will be more satiated when we finally liberate the long and wildly anticipated shift of tension towards arousal when we eventually indulge. However, most people make the mistake of just purely waiting and longing for that moment to when they can ultimately indulge once again, and not redirecting their attention and fixation somewhere else. And this is where most people give up waiting, as they can't tolerate those initial sense of monotonousness and mundaneness that they initially seek a quick release from. Which is why it is very important to occupy yourself extensively with both professional and recreational endeavors to take your mind off of them, and indirectly build that contrasting calmness or tension in order to fully realize that period of abstinence or absence. There is just this massive sense of satisfaction that comes after a long period of abstinence through fulfilling your duties and responsibilities. When you eventually indulge, it feels like you've earned and deserved them, like it's rightfully yours for the taking, and dare I say it, this way of life had made me the happiest and most fulfilled I've ever been. And I would like to see you gentlemen try it as well and see how your life plays out after it. If you want to try it the way I did, have the final weekend of every month or 2 months if you're that dedicated be your indulgence period. Just do whatever you want, eat your favorite foods, get a full day of sleep, go on a date, buy yourself some nice clothes, just reward or spoil yourself as much and as reasonably as possible. But before that, work your ass off. Day in and day out, just commit and dedicate yourself towards whatever it is you're working on. Make necessary progress, persevere through the stress and pain, and discipline yourself into putting your maximum effort and time onto everything in your routine other than immediate pleasures. You'll be very proud of yourself when you eventually indulge, and it is also a great way to reset and recover for your next period of abstinence. For me personally, it is a lot more motivating and invigorating knowing that I get to eat a nice juicy filet mignon and blueberry ice cream and waffles for dessert at the end of every month. Although I refuse to indulge if I'm not proud or satisfied of the progress I've made in my work, because I just could not live with the notion that I do not deserve that steak and waffles. Now finally, I want to address one important thing. In this self-improvement world, we're always told that indulging in temptations is utterly prohibited because it will sabotage your progress. And I have to admit, I used to advocate this principle as well. Just working and working and working even after you burn yourself out. But now, as long as you are aware of your temptations and have the courage to restrict yourself over them, I find that periodically rewarding yourself will yield much better results for both your performance and mental well-being, because it allows you to effectively and freshly reset or realign your thoughts better, and also it gives you more motivation to keep the momentum going as you have closer goals to reach, and do not have to utterly force yourself towards diminishing returns when you absolutely have nothing left in the tank. Rest and recovery is just as important for your productivity as discipline and dedication. You just have to find the sweet spot for yourself to know when to do so the moment you start to experience those diminishing returns. We are humans after all, not robots. We have a finite capacity for physical and mental tolerance towards daily strenuous endeavors. And we require occasional periods where we can ease off the pursuit and untighten the pressure in order to reinvigorate ourselves and become even more productive next time around. Thank you for watching.